hand it is in.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's on the losing team, it extends the game. If it's on the winning team, it's often, of course, to secure that earlier win. And overall, I mean, for EG, do you think by this point they're starting to use this as practice to look forward to that bracket stage? I mean, you're fairly confident you're going to end up in the top 4 of Group B in adapting from game to game. I mean, they're already good at it, but do you think that's where they're going to really focus? Because once you go to the bracket stage, it really matters, right? Even if you dropped into the lower bracket, your chances of making it to the finals and to that championship title is much lower than just staying in the upper bracket.
Well, it's an interesting case because I think the top 4 in Group A is already pretty much settled. So if EG get first, they have their pick of probably Cloud9 or Complexity.
Right.
And I think it's pretty clear that they're going to choose Complexity out of that. Not only are they considered the weaker team, they were actually a qualifier winner from the North American region. They also, I'm pretty sure EG has a fairly limited scrim partners. I think they boot camped on the eastern side of the U.S. And I know that they scrim U.S. partners occasionally far more than a lot of the counterparts. So I think they're probably going to be very familiar with Complexity and their ways. And, of course, I think a lot of the players play in in-house leagues together. So I think that they have a decent matchup versus Cloud9, but not as good as it was before. Before, EG always used to destroy Cloud9, similarly to how Secret did. But I think they just get first place, concentrate on that, and then look for your opponent later and do your research.
Okay. There's also still a chance that Fnatic will make it into the top 4.
Yes.
Who do you
Right.
think they would choose
That's
over Fnatic and Complexity?
Well, it's only going to be one or the other because both of those teams are playing each other tomorrow.
Yeah. So if they would have to choose between those two,
I mean, I would think
because it's not going to be Cloud9.
that's actually a tough one because Fnatic, I think, has underperformed and Complexity has overperformed. Going in,
Okay.
you would easily say Complexity, but as the
Yeah.
tournament's panned out, I actually probably say
I think
Fnatic.
Fnatic has more potential in that sense.
They do, but I keep thinking, okay, this game they're going to win 2-0. This game they're going to win 2-0, and it hasn't happened, sadly.
Winter, in your view, but do you see it as because of that potential and, again, the kind of fear of the fact that if Fnatic starts to snowball, they will just run with it, that maybe EG would rather play what they would consider a little bit more of a stable opponent in Complexity? If they have a
I mean,
choice.
it might also be a factor. Like sometimes you rather play an opponent. Maybe they are slightly stronger, but their variance is much lower. There's no secret strats or like something that you won't expect. You rather pick an opponent that you actually know what's coming rather than okay, this opponent is weaker, but sometimes a different draft appears and you don't know
Right.
how you want to handle the specific hero. So you might want to go for a slightly stronger one, but more predictable.
This is an interesting point to talk about, though, as we start to go towards the last day of the group stages. Do you think there's anyone, assuming, let's say, Group A stays the way it is, and it is Cloud9 and then Complexity for 3rd and 4th place on the top side, do you think anyone from Group B would choose Cloud9 over Complexity just because they weren't expecting Complexity to do this well?
Maybe a bit more worried about Complexity, that they can throw an unexpected punch, but I mean, if it is EG choosing, then EG will go for Complexity, as Ben just explained. I think Cloud9, they have been underperforming, but then you come to best of 3 still, and then do you really want to try to face Cloud9 in the best of 3? Because they are still a very strong team, and they can still throw out a big punch.
I think they
as well.
underperformed day 1, but day 2 they looked really good. I'm talking about really strong, and the way that they've won has been very, very impressive.
Yeah, of course, today, too. I mean, coming out maybe even stronger than day 2, looking a lot more gathered and looking a lot more confident overall. Day 1, they did have a little bit of a rough day. We'll review overall standings right now as we wait for the next game between these two teams of eHome versus EG and take a look at Group B, in fact, to see kind of where we are. I mean, VP and EG leading. CDEC, of course, the big surprise. And CDEC actually has the potential to have the highest number of points if they go forward and just win all their games 2-0. What's the possibility of that happening?
Well, I want to say that it's really high for their sake, but to be honest, because they have faced Empire, I believe they've still got some tough opponents to face, and I'm thinking their chances of getting top 4 now that I see because they've got 2 wins, right? If it was if it was draws, if they got 6 points any other way, then it would have been tougher. But I think because it's 2 wins that they got, I think their chance of getting top 4 pretty high. Because newbie eHome, they're all having so many draws. This is a group of draws, and just purely by having those 2 wins, I consider them a top 4 team in this group.
Yeah, it does look pretty possible. Winter, what about you? I mean, where do you see CDEC ending up?
I think it's still really tight though. Anyone can take the top 4 position in that group, and CDEC have still a few hard games to play. against stronger opponents, so they need to at least win another 2-0. I feel another 3 points to be safe in the top 4. So I feel anything can happen still.
Ben, any clear thoughts about CDEC, or do you agree that? Well, we'll see. I mean, because they're later matchups.
Yeah, well, I think one more 2-0 is safe for them in the top 4, but it also depends on like how Vici does, how all the middle of the pack teams do.
Yeah, of course, especially Vici, Newbie, and eHome, all not performing up to, or Vici not performing up to standards that most people might have expected. On the flip side, Newbie and eHome maybe coming up a little bit stronger than some expected. And then, of course, Empire. We do have another match with them later today after this one, and they will be playing against EG. That will be a big one for Empire, right? If they can take a win there, that sets them apart. But if they get 2-0'd against EG also, like, they started out with not the hardest of matchups on day 1 and 2. They had a rough beating there. If they can't climb up, it's going to be rough for Empire to hope for a top 4 finish on day 4 of the group stages. As you can see on your screen, of course, in stream 2 and 3, we do have Virtus Pro playing Vici Gaming and the Newbie playing CDEC. So CDEC is playing right now alongside Newbie, and that should be a pretty interesting match. Of course, might tell a lot on the results of Group B. Same with VP and Vici Gaming. See how Vici Gaming's doing as we wrap up day 3. I almost said day 2, but we're in day 3 now. The days are all blurring together. They've been long but excellent days here at TI5 for sure. Are there any matches that really stand out to you? Because I feel like every time we do highlights from the previous day, it's like, oh shoot, that one was really good too. And then we think about day 1, we're like, okay, well we had those moments in day 1. We of course had the Age of Steel with the Storm. Anything that particularly has left a memory for you, Winter?
I mean, the first series of the day on day 1, obviously LGD versus Secret. There were both very high quality games and very contrasting play styles, and you could see a lot of difference in how the team match up together and how they view both of the teams, like the bans, the picks, and stuff. I think that's the most memorable series for me today.
All right. Well, would like to talk more about all the cool moments we've had so far, but it looks like the teams are ready for game number 2, so we'll be jumping into the draft between EG and eHome. eHome on the dire side, EG on Radiant, and eHome just kicking things off with the Naga ban. They don't want to deal with that. EG, of course, very well versed with Naga.
There's a Dazzle. Damn.
Man, not even waiting until the second ban, just going and taking the hope out of everyone who might have been waiting for that one.
At least it was second one last game, but no, that's just mean.
Same with Naga.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Not giving a chance either. Both very clear in that one, but eHome taking a little bit more time for the next bans and perhaps going forward too.
Again, the Bounty Hunter was a big question mark for me, just because it's not terribly great against eHome's style of play. Obviously, it's a very good hero and very highly rated, but I wasn't sure if EG was actually going to tend towards that this game.
Okay.
I think from previous game, like eHome did really good in the first 10 minutes, right? And one of the reasons they did that was because of the Spirit Breaker from RTK. So I'm curious to see if we're going to see that hero again, or if EG is going to try to ban it out this time.
I mean, the whole draft they had in the first game in general is just the general idea they had was we are going to have good lanes, we're going to gank and have a better time early game and control and just push whenever we are ready. So let's see what they have this game. They're going to have the Lashrock,
Tuscan Gyrocopter.
Yeah, and EG, definitely one of the teams that hasn't been afraid to just give up the Leshrac and try to counter it in one way or another, whether it's team play, whether it's hero pick specifically, and then choosing to ban the Shaker over that one.
We have seen that.
I think it's important, like when you're up against a Chinese team, you ban the Shaker when you want to give away the Lash, because they use Lash plus Shaker combination very well together. It's really strong and potent in the laning phase, and even in team fights, both the heroes are they work very well together. They deal a lot of damage, and in general, early game to mid late, they're all strong in the whole stages of the match.
It's also really good to split up team fights if you are indeed going to be having the Tuscan and Gyrocopter. If you want to pick that up, then you'd preferably not want to fight against the Air Shaker as well.
And banning a Dazzle, I think, is really good if you plan on giving the Leshrac away.
There's still Queen, Shadow Fiend. I mean, I guess Queen would probably be much more flexible than Shadow
Undying,
Fiend. Yeah.
still in the pool as well. And it is going to be another... They kind of have the same head. No, they don't. But they are both the same color.
Yeah, they do look pretty similar if you look at them from this angle. Wyvern being picked up for eHome. So all the heroes you just mentioned, Quap's still available. SF, of course, still available. Slipping through a little bit this time.
they're definitely gearing into very strong lanes right now. Wyvern, a very strong support early on, can roam, and I feel it's a good replacement when you don't have an Earthshaker if you want to gang the Leshrax's lane, since you can do a lot of damage with Arctic Burn at level 1 alone. So it probably hints that eHome might still want to go very aggressive early on, gang the lanes and be very active around the map, help CTY as much as possible.
Now, does the Lina ban say much about who eHome wants to put in that mid lane, or are we pretty convinced that it's just overall a generic ban just to get that out of the way?
Against Cold Embrace, possibly?
It's mostly against Winter Wyvern. Leshrac and Lina, I guess Lion. I mean, Gyrocopter is already really good versus it, but you need something else too.
Yeah, you can light strike array the Tusk targets coming in, so perhaps they would want to pick it up themselves, I thought, but apparently they want to have maybe more aggressive supports in that case. Supports that can roam around early a bit more. Maybe get the Lion back. Rubik is still in the pool, which was a hero that Evil Geniuses banned out against eHome previous game. In
That
this
is
phase.
true.
The anti-mage ban is actually pretty interesting, just because we've seen a lot of teams, I'd say Secret most notably, just almost always pick anti-mage as a response to Leshrac in the second phase.
Yeah.
And EG is actually banning them out themselves. Maybe...
They don't want to play against Anti-Mage plus Leshrac. I think we've seen that combination once today. I mean, it wasn't particularly strong. I think it was from Richie, was it? Can't remember which game.
No, does that mean that perhaps they have a stronger priority and something else they want to pick as soon as that pick comes off of this ban phase? Because even if that anti-mage is good against Lesh, maybe they really wanted to favor something else and they were afraid of that anti-mage going over to eHome.
I actually think probably the other possible reason is what eHome has right now. They have Lash and Wyvern. Both of these heroes are very good at defending high ground, so they don't want to give eHome too much of a security towards the late game since they have very good base defense.
Would they be more